Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hey, I just thought I'd follow up with you guys just to provide a bit more detail over these sort of final slides for our financial literacy topic. Bearing in mind that we've been a bit squeezed at the end of term, and with this 5-day break, I'm sure many of you will be using this time for revision, so I hope these help. So yesterday we were looking at saving and budgeting after we moved on from the credit topic. And we had a look at the reasons why people save, and we had a look at these 3 reasons, being that actually satisfaction can be gained from saving, it protects against future risks, and it allows us to achieve financial goals or pay off expenses. So saving, generally speaking, it's the opportunity cost from buying things. If you're consuming, you're not saving. If you're saving, you're not consuming. We briefly had a look at this slide as well, and saving can be done to reflect the types of income that people received. So we looked at different types of income, and we saw that some people's income, such as sales commissions for the likes of real estate agents, are irregular in the sense that they don't come in necessarily unless that real estate agent's very, very good on a weekly basis. So people have to save money to have financial means to support them in between the times that they get paid, and getting interest revenue. So we had a look at income from assets and interest from your savings, and that's certainly a good reason to try and increase your savings, is because you get more interest from the financial institution where you're depositing money. Preparing for retirement, yeah, absolutely. That's probably everyone's main goal, right? Is to be set up for the time where you do not need to work and you can live your golden years, hopefully on the back of some very good saving behavior. And finally, that final point is that for many people who enjoy higher income, they're not actually spending every dollar they earn. So it makes sense that they save those dollars that they don't need to spend on their needs and wants. And so that's certainly easier to save for those individuals with higher incomes than those with lower incomes. So at the bottom there, guys, we've got another activity to just keep working through, and we can discuss the answer in class. So we sort of scooted over the slide just to get to compound interest, but I just thought I'd add a bit more detail over it. So in New Zealand, interest rates that borrowers and savers experience are greatly influenced by the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. The Reserve Bank of New Zealand is an independent part of the government, and it's in charge of setting the monetary policy, which is one of the key tools of the government in influencing our economy. Now, by being able to set what's called the official cash rate, the OCR, this Reserve Bank is able to influence the interest rates that the commercial banks, so the banks that we are customers of, BNZ, ASB, ANZ, Westpac, Heartland Bank, all these banks charge interest rates, which in part are based on the OCR, the official cash rate. There are other factors that influence how much people are charged for their loans and how much interest they receive from the bank on their deposits, but the official cash rate going up will increase the rates that commercial banks offer their customers, and conversely, with the official cash rate going down, it will decrease the interest rates that customers face for their everyday loans and savings. So when a good rule of thumb is that when interest rates go up, it encourages saving behavior because the reward for savings has increased, and in the sense that if you put your money in the bank with a higher interest rate, you're going to make more income. So really the opportunity cost of consumption, so spending your money and not saving, has increased, because when you're spending money when there are higher interest rates, you're missing out on that higher interest revenue that you would have got from tightening your belt and putting your money in the bank. On the other hand, lower interest rates discourage saving and encourage consumption. So if our interest rates go down, you're less likely to put your money in the bank because it's going to generate a higher income, a lesser income. On the other side of the coin, people actually do borrow money to spend. They borrow money to consume. And we had a discussion yesterday about credit cards. So if your credit card interest rate is lower, you're more likely to go out and splash out or buy something nice on your credit card, because that cost of using credit to consume has gone down. So higher interest rates that the government can influence will discourage consumption. Lower interest rates will encourage consumption. And the inverse is true for savings behavior as well. At the moment, historically, New Zealand has the lowest official cash rate that it's had in history, which is 0.25%. So the government has, through the Reserve Bank, has deliberately created a very low interest rate environment in New Zealand. And that is similar to all around the globe, all around the world. And it reflects the financial challenges that we've had over the past 15 years, right from the global financial crisis that started, that's a 2007, 2008, 2009 period, right through to the present, where we've been subject to fallout from COVID-19. So lower interest rates are in place to try and encourage people to spend, to encourage people to invest in capital goods as well, buying more machinery and computers. So yesterday we touched on compound interest, and I thought we'd just give this a bit more airtime, given that there was a bit of text on the page, and it's best probably work through it with you guys here. So there are really two ways in which a saver can receive or generate their interest income. Some savers get paid out their interest. So they put a deposit in the bank, and when interest is being generated or created from those savings, the financial institution, so the bank, will pay that interest out to the depositor, to the saver. On the other hand, there are situations where the depositor, the saver, can request that the bank leaves the interest in, or they themselves not withdraw the interest from their deposit account. So when interest is being generated on their savings, that interest is left in the bank account to become more savings. Now, over time, if you continue to leave inside your bank account the interest that is being created or being received off your existing savings, then that interest becomes your savings in time. And quite logically, if your interest income is becoming your savings will be getting interest on it. So by leaving your interest income inside your bank account, that interest income will in turn begin to get interest income off itself. So compound interest is kind of like interest income on the historic interest income, or the interest income that you've received from a previous period. So I thought we've got two worked examples that hopefully explain this with a bit more clarity. So we've got two gentlemen here. We've got Paul and Albert. Now, Paul, he likes to withdraw his interest. And Albert, on the other hand, he's very happy just to leave his interest inside his bank account so that his interest income becomes more savings. And in future periods, that previous interest income will generate interest on it as if it was savings in the first place. So each of Paul and Albert have $10,000. Now Paul, he's the one wanting to withdraw his interest. So they decided to put their money in the bank for 4 years, and both their savings accounts generate a 5% interest rate, which in current terms is very high actually. So over with $10,000 over a 4-year period, Paul will generate $2,000 of interest. And this is on the basis that each year his $10,000 generates a 5% interest, and he takes that 5% interest out. So every year he's getting $500 out of his account. $500 times 4 is $2,000. So none of this money that's being withdrawn is being left in the bank that later on will receive interest income off it. So in his 4 years, Paul earns $2,000 of interest. On the other hand, so Albert's $10,000 is put in the bank for 4 years, and he leaves any of the interest that's generated in the bank, so that in the next period, the bank will sort of treat the previous interest as new savings, as savings that deserve an interest income charged on them or received against. So in year 1, he receives $500 of interest, the same as Paul. But because he leaves his $500 in the bank for all of year 2, he actually receives 5% interest on that additional $500. So interest in total for year 2 is $525, because actually he's getting interest against $10,500, which is the $500 from the previous period. And then we fast forward to year 3. Now for year 3, Albert's actually going to be receiving 5% interest against $11,025, which is the year 2 savings amount plus $525, which is the interest he received in year 2. So for year 3, he's going to end up generating $551.25 of interest, because that's the interest income against $11,025. And then in year 4, he's actually going to get another chunk of interest, and that's 5% against $11,576.25, because that is the income, the interest income from the previous period that's been retained in the bank account to generate interest off. So in year 4, he actually receives $578.81. So in total, we total up those 4 years of interest, Albert's actually going to generate $2,155 worth of interest. Compared with Paul's $2,000, we can see that Albert's actually received $155.06 more interest over this period. We can also, so without having to do this sort of rather cumbersome calculation by adding together and multiplying all the interest charges, we can actually use a more sneaky formula. And this isn't in your PowerPoint slides, but I got a hint from what you guys said in class that you might have covered this in mathematics, is we could work this out by doing 10,000 times 1.05 to the power of 4 minus 10,000. So the first part of the calculation will give us the new total amount that's left in Albert's bank account after 4 years. And then if we take off 10,000, the original amount, it would give us the change in the savings amount, i.e. the interest income that's been retained in his bank account. So that's just a sneakier way to work it out, guys. Alrighty, well I hope that's been helpful to put a bit more clarity on how we use the compound interest calculation and what's different to it than simply withdrawing your interest out. I'd like you to tackle, of course, this activity 85 on page 83, and this is about why actually some people might prefer withdrawing interest out over a period of time as opposed to letting it back in. And I've got some little pictures there to give you guys a bit of a hint as to why people like to receive their interest income. Okay, thanks.